It's Clive Barker News, and Jose and Ryan have a lot to talk about. In episode 278, we go over the new Hulu Books of Blood long trailer, how you can see the movie early, some Hellraiser unused sequel details and other Hellraiser news, and Clive Barker is back on Twitter with some discussion of his new projects. And what's new with the Clive Barker Threadless shop? Thank you for subscribing. This episode is sponsored by Don Bertram Celebrate Imagination. Don Bertram Celebrate Imagination shop is dedicated to benefiting the Arts and Medicine program at Texas Children's Cancer Center. Up to 50% of the proceeds will support the program, where artist Don Bertram volunteers monthly. Don Bertram is a longtime friend of Clive and celebrates and continues to be inspired by his art. He uses that inspiration to help kids through the Texas Children's Cancer Center, and we couldn't be more proud to continue to work with him. There's a news feature video that shows Don working with the kids at Texas Children's Cancer Center and his artwork. Click the side banner at www.clivebarkercast.com to find links to videos and his Etsy shop where you can buy his prints, books, and support this wonderful program. Check out his artwork and find out what inspired me to buy The Sentinel in episode 257, Art and Inspiration with Don Bertram. Welcome. This is episode 278 of the Clive Barker podcast. Good morning, Jose.
Good morning, Ryan. How you doing?
Good. We've spent a little bit of our morning here planning something, and we'll get to that in a little bit. But
Yes.
This is a news episode, and in the news, to start out with, Books of Blood is coming on stronger. First of all, if you want to see it, if you live in California and you want to see it one day early, there is the Screamfest Horror Film Festival, which is in Malibu, California at the Screamfest Drive-In Theater. And that's on October 6th at 7 p.m. And we'll have a link in the show notes. You can go to the Eventbrite and click on it and go see it. I can't remember.
That's pretty cool.
The last drive-in movie I saw might have been Child's Play.
I've never seen a drive-in movie. I've never seen a movie inside a car like that. Because we don't have that in Portugal. It's kind of more of an American thing. So when I grew up, we would just go into the theater, but, you know.
Oh, it was Child's Play 2 is the last movie I saw in a drive-in.
Cool. That's a good movie to watch in a drive-in, I guess. And now they're coming back because of the coronavirus and all that stuff. So
yeah. Right when they were about to die off, and there's all this talk about, this is the last drive-in, and isn't that the name of Joe Bob Briggs's show? Is the last drive-in?
Yep. Joe Bob's last drive-in show.
Yeah, he might need to rebrand if they're popping up all over the place.
Oh, yeah, he totally banks on that stuff. I mean, he used to make the opening to his shows, live shows, were "We're all drive-in mutants." They had the drive-in mutant pledge and oath and stuff,
Wow.
We like boobs and blood and gore and all that stuff. So, good times.
People used to sneak in by putting their friends in the trunk of the car because they count the number of people in the car when they charge the tickets when you're driving up.
Seems a little conspicuous that you'll be opening up your trunk in the middle of the movie and have someone pop out of it.
Yeah, definitely.
So that's Hulu's Books of Blood anthology movie is going to come out on October 7. Is it?
So you can see it one day early if you go to the drive-in.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you can go on Instagram and Twitter and tell everybody else that you're special. You saw it a day early.
Yeah, and I think that if I were living there, I would probably do that because I'm a little more excited about it now. There's a longer movie trailer, right?
Sure.
Yeah. The original trailer was only like 10 seconds or 6 seconds long. It was super short, but this new one is much longer, and it, from what I can gather, and maybe you can correct me, but it looks to me like you've got the bookend story, Books of Blood in Jerusalem Street. But it looks like in the middle, I see two stories, at least. Okay. Mm-hmm. Because you've got the woman with misymphonia, right?
Yes.
Who's got the and she's like staying at these creepy family's house for some reason.
Right.
And then you got those people like in a train station, and he says like, "Is this a nice place?" And he goes, "No."
Yeah.
Right, and that seems like a different story than the other one.
Right. Well, I mean, it's just a scene taken out of context. It's kind of hard to tell.
It could be part of the Book of Blood story.
Yeah.
You know,
I was a little thrown back by the way that they show the psychic guy. I forgot his name. Jeez, Neil,
yeah,
Simon McNeil.
Oh, Simon McNeil. Jeez.
Yeah.
Right.
The experiment that they do in this movie, instead of being in an old house, they do it in kind of a lab setting, right? And it's just weird because you see the lady, she's the paranormal specialist or whatever. Yeah. She's like patting him down, and he's completely naked, obviously. So there's nothing hidden. Yeah. Yeah. And then they turn the lights off, and all of a sudden he just launches himself against the mirror. The window. I think
they implied in the trailer that the ghosts turned the lights off.
Yes, the ghosts popped the fuse box or something, and then there's a lab setting where people are sitting down and observing.
Yeah,
and then all
a lot of people. You know, instead of just the three of them that we're used to.
It kind of takes a little bit of that, haunted house feeling that you get from the original story, but
and it also seems to turn it on its head because Simon is the real deal, right? And the whole point of the Book of Blood was he was poking fun at the dead by pretending to be them and making up stuff. He was writing their stories with his little pencil lead that he was hiding under his tongue.
Right.
But here, it looks more real, right? Because it's all written in blood. You can see the stories writing themselves on the wall. That'd be pretty tough for him to fake.
Yeah. But there's definitely a element of haunted house because the girl who wears the earphones, she is trying to sleep in a house and she's looking at the wall and bugs keep coming out of the walls and the floor and stuff.
Is that a different house? I mean, that's the girl with the missymphonia, isn't it?
Right. So I don't know which house that is. It's kind of hard because, like I said, it's a bunch of disconnected scenes, but it does seem like. And then the bugs represent the haunted, the possessedness of the house, right?
Yeah, like Amityville.
Yeah.
And there's that scene where that's the same girl, right? Where they're sticking the needle in her eye.
Right. In the last shot of the trailer, there is
God, that's uncomfortable to look
eye
at.
trauma.
Yeah.
It's a classic trope in horror. But there's also a scene where they're sleeping and all of a sudden you see a guy with a shaved head and looks like really sunken eyes, kind of slowly like lumber from under the bed and stuff. It seems like very classic scary stuff.
I wonder if the house is the connecting factor, or I'm not sure. It's difficult because those middle stories are also supposed to be random stories from the dead people who are at the crossroads, which is the house.
Right. So it just so happened that the house was in the wrong place at the wrong time. I'm not sure if it's a haunted house per se. It's just that the house is a nexus of these dead highways, right?
Yeah.
At least in the story, that's what happened. And that's why Simon McNeil's experiment went so haywire, because usually he would just pretend, but then in that particular moment, his sensitivity actually became the doorway through which the dead came in and wrote all that stuff on his skin. And you see this awesome shot in the trailer where Simon McNeil's – I'm sorry, I just hit my microphone.
Oh, okay.
Simon McNeil's skin is being written all these like slogans and stories and words and stuff.
You know what I'm thinking now that we're talking about it is that they've really truncated the Book of Blood and postscript stories to fit the other stories in, right? So instead of having the time of him wasting time, with writing the stories with the pencil lead, they're going right to the ghosts probably grabbing the piece of glass or whatever and cutting him and writing stories.
Yeah. In the lab setting experiment at the beginning of the trailer, when you see Simon being thrown by the ghosts against the big mirror observation room window, then when the light comes back on, there's all these messages scrawled in blood, which, the one that we used for the cover image of our last episode, I can't sleep, mommy, or I'm not sleeping, mommy.
Yeah.
And it makes you think, is that Simon's blood? that they used to write.
But it writes itself too, so I don't know. Yeah, and when they show him lying there naked and he's like convulsing, he doesn't look like he's cut up at that point.
Yeah.
I don't know, but trailers are tricky, so we don't
spooky stuff.
Yeah, we don't know. But I'm excited to see this. I'm also nervous to see this because of the eye scene. I don't want to watch that.
There's also you have a thing about blood, right?
Yeah, a little bit.
But just real blood, not fake.
Yeah, needles and blood is.
Yeah.
Looks
like you're in for a treat.
Yeah. So we'll. I guess we're going to be subscribing in a week or so, right? To watch this thing and
absolutely,
and then we'll do an episode about it.
Nice. Maybe we'll get a commentary track out of it too.
Yeah, maybe. We could do that and just save it for later so that enough time has gone by for people to watch it.
Yes. And there's the inevitable part where we have to talk about that. There's already been a Book of Blood movie.
Yeah.
A few years
there's
ago.
a lot of that in the comments all over Facebook.
Right. A lot of people were
think it's a remake of the Book of Blood movie, and it's like, well, not exactly. It's
right.
I mean, yes and no, I guess.
And I think people think that this would be a show on Hulu that would be the Books of Blood adaptations, and it's not. It started out that way, but it's one of those things, they start out thinking maybe we should do a show, and then things get in the way, or they think, well, let's see how we do with a pilot episode, and then the pilot becomes a movie, and then it's like, well, now it's an anthology film.
Yeah, because the rights for the different stories are spread all over the place, and they couldn't get it all together, I guess.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that. I don't know what stories are still optioned. I would love to know if there's any. I know that the Jacqueline S story was optioned, but I'm not sure when that would expire and revert back to Clive. So I don't know. That's one of those things.
How long do they get to sit on that? Raven
Banner,
I don't know. I guess, right?
They were the Canadian company that did option to make that movie with directed by. It was going to be directed by Ivanka
Vukovic.
Yes, thank you.
And if you ever ask them about it on Twitter, they ignore you.
Right. So I'm not sure what's going on there.
Yeah.
It's I think they tried shopping it around, but they were having funding issues.
Yeah. I mean, it gave everyone so much hope because they had a lead actress and they painted her right into the promotional poster and everything.
It was going to be Lena Headey from Game of Thrones.
Yeah, Lena Headey.
Queen Cersei or whatever.
And she was also Sarah Connor in the Sarah Connor Chronicles.
Right. Well, anyway. Things come and go, but this one is about to arrive, so that's exciting. It's causing a lot of buzz, and it's causing Clive
2 weeks from now we should have it.
Yeah, and Clive is back on Twitter.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah. So that was a big one. His very first tweet, in a long time, the first one that he did for himself was, "Hey guys." That was all he said was, "Hey guys," and then he comes, and then he did. Then he shared the new Hulu Book of Blood trailer.
Uh-huh.
And then after that, he said, "Hey guys, I'm here. I'm back. It's been a long silence, I know, but I'm returning to the fold with a new novel, Deep Hill, a large collection of out-of-print short stories, new short stories, and a novella called Mercy and the Jackal. The collection to be called Fear Eternal."
Okay, that's cool.
Yeah, so he packed a lot of detail into that little tweet.
And he had
Deep Hill, of
reply.
course, he's been talking about for a couple of years. But
yes,
but the short story collection he briefly talked about with Phil and Sarah on the interview, but on their last revelatory interview. But he didn't mention specifically that Mercy and the Jackal would be in there. And you and I were discussing this, and you had mentioned Mercy and the Jackal has been brought up since like 99 or 2000.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's I just want to add that on the same day that he tweeted that, he also tweeted another announcement saying, "I'm also ready to release a large volume of some 250 poems edited by Paulo Lorca, and published by Phil and Sarah. Much more news to share soon. Much love from your crazy author.
Yeah, and he had also mentioned that in the revelatory interview.
He did, yeah.
Yeah, but he didn't.
We talked
I don't
about
know
that.
if he said how many poems. He might have.
Yeah, now it seems like it's going to be around 250, which is huge.
That is huge.
Huge. So Mercy and the Jackal, right? From what I understand, and I remember from interviews that particular interview that I remember was Confessions, Lost Souls.
Oh,
back in
yeah,
back with Stephen. What was his
right.
name?
I can't remember.
Dressler.
Yes.
Stephen Dressler. He talked about Mercy and the Jackal was a series of 5 stories he had come up with. One of them was so Mercy is a little girl and the Jackal is a wrestler.
Yeah.
And it's in this fantasy world. So that's all I know. That's all that Clive Barker ever said about it.
It almost sounds a little bit like Maximilian Bacchus.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So I'm wondering, when I read the announcement that he did on Twitter, I think this is going to be one volume called Fear Eternal that's going to have some old stories, new stories, and that novella. So he might have rearranged the 5 stories to become a continuous, beginning to end novella of sorts. And he's probably going to include that in there.
That's cool. That stuff, since it's got new short stories, but they could be just ones that have never been published. So, this could be all being put together behind the scenes while he's busy writing, finishing up Deep Hill or Aberrat 4 and stuff like that. So that could come out at any time. We don't know.
Well, there's so many stories that we've heard along the years, right? I mean, he's been trying to do a big anthology of short stories almost a couple of years since he had Books of Blood published.
Yeah. And there are a ton of them that were published in anthology books that never made it into the Books of Blood.
That's right. Like A Pigeon and Teresa.
Yeah, Hermione and the Moon.
Hermione and the Moon.
To Grief. There's a
came
ton of them.
Came out in a magazine or something.
Yeah. A Time Out London book of short stories.
Right. And so there's a lot of stuff there, and there's stuff that Clive has been hinting, like a story about a man who falls in love with God's mistress called Jehovah's Bitch.
Yeah. That's stuff we've only heard about, but has never been published anywhere.
Yeah. He's been talking about these stories for years. Yeah. And before Fear Eternal, I think he was talking about that other project that was going to be Black is the Devil's Rainbow.
Yeah, Tales of
a Journeyman. Yes,
right. And also before it was that, it was the Scarlet Gospels, which was supposed to be a large volume of short stories.
Yeah, with a novella about the Last Requiem, which was going to be the story of Harry D'Amour and Pinhead.
Yeah.
So these things change, and it's hopefully now that he's announcing them again, and now that we have a little more enthusiasm and more, things are popping in the Clive Barker universe again. So that's good.
Yeah. Clive Barker is back in the public eye now with this Book of Blood, and possibly Hellraiser, but it's like the Hellraiser remake saga has just been going on and on and on since since the beginning of the century.
I'm just going to grab some coffee, but keep talking.
Okay. Yeah, so I don't know. As far as Hellraiser, I don't know, when or if a new Hellraiser movie is going to come out, but we've got Books of Blood coming out in just 2 weeks, and we've got trailers, and we've got Candyman coming out next year. So there's a lot of cool stuff to look forward to. Right,
and this Hulu stuff is putting Clive back in the mainstream, because Clive has been back for a long time now. I mean, he's never left temporarily, but ever since a couple of revelatory interviews that we've heard that Clive is back, he's fine, he's doing better, he's excited, he's working, he's writing, he's painting, he's drawing, and nothing can keep him down, basically.
Yeah. Well, and if Books of Blood is good, which it looks like it is, and Candyman is good, which we have no reason to believe that it's not, that's gonna be pretty big for Clive's name being back out in the mainstream.
And there's a lot of new Hellraiser stuff coming out. I mean, new rumors about old Hellraiser stuff, I should specify.
Yeah.
Which is great because, a lot of people out there, you start out with Hellraiser and then it's kind of the gateway drug that takes you into Clive Barker's world. And like it happened to me, it probably happened to you, And some people, it's Nightbreed, It's the movies definitely were huge gateways into Clive Barker's work. But none is more successful and has lasted, through the years in terms of fandom and stuff being out there than Hellraiser.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of cool stuff about Hellraiser, right? There's like a reissue of the Mondo vinyl soundtrack.
Yeah. Right. So it's a $30 pre-order from Mondo, and you can get it right now on 180 gram Hellbound Heart vinyl.
Yeah,
I don't know. I think that's red. I'm not sure.
Good question. Let's look at the images.
Oh, yeah. Wow.
I'm looking at the Mondo website right now, and it says Hellraiser original motion picture soundtrack vinyl. I'm going to read the blurb a little bit. Death Waltz Recording Company is proud to bring you a classic horror soundtrack fresh from the depths of hell. Clive Barker's Hellraiser with music by celebrated genre composer Christopher Young. The Fly 2, Spider-Man 3, DEF CON 4. I wonder if they picked the movie's by title to have 2, 3, and 4.
Yeah.
You know how the story goes. Pick up a strange puzzle box, try to solve it, just end up in hell, subjected to infinite torture by a guy with pins in his head. Bad day, bad day. But Hellraiser is a gothic horror masterpiece celebrating the transcendence of pain into pleasure and the question of what awaits us after death. One thing's for sure, there will be blood and rats nailed to the wall. So the image I'm looking at shows a vinyl record that's gray with a red label. There's another version of it that looks almost like
it's got blood all over it.
Yeah. It's got like this gradient color. It looks like a melted puddle of red wax.
Yeah.
Looks great.
Yeah, so I don't know which one of those is the 180 gram Hellbound Heart vinyl.
Yeah, probably both. One is the Uncle Frank vinyl. The other one is the golden brown swirl.
But those two are grayed out.
Oh, that's true.
You can't order those.
Okay. Yeah, you're right. So it's probably the red one.
Maybe they're sold out already.
Oh, boy. Yeah. Expect to ship in November 2020. Huh.
And they also have Hellraiser 2 on the website and Hellraiser 3. Like, you can add them to your cart.
Right. They're just re-releasing the first one, I guess, because it was so successful. And the artwork for the album is really awesome, too. It's got Pinhead's profile, a beautiful painting.
Yeah.
And then when you open it up, you see the 4 Cenobites in the chain room with the chains coming towards you. So really awesome stuff. Did you ever buy this one, Ryan?
No, I don't have a record player, so I don't really ever buy vinyl.
Yeah, I mean, as a collector,
I had one when I was a kid, but I don't anymore.
Yeah, as a collector, I'm very tempted to buy this. I do have a record player, so, and I'm sure that if you buy this, it'll come with an MP3 download, as they usually do. But yeah, great collector thing. You can put it on your wall. You can put it on your shelves. You can, buy some puzzles. Invite your friends for a Corona party and play this while they
Corona party.
Solve the puzzle and get chains attached to their temples and yeah.
I guess at that point the virus is not as important.
Yes, it's all about the pain and pleasure indivisible. Right. So anyway, that's cool. That's one of the things that's coming out again. Yeah. $30, ships on November 20.
Yep, and Daniel Serra, if anybody remembers, if you remember his artwork that he's done a lot of stuff through Clive Barker. He did a lot of cover art for the Hellraiser anthology, and he's got an art book that you can buy. It's
wonderful.
It's on psppublishing.co.uk. It's £40.
Wow.
And we've got a link in the show notes to the website that you can go to buy it. But his art is amazing. I love his style.
I'm looking at the book. Yeah, it's a giant, oversized collection of artwork.
Yeah,
it's limited
like
to 500 copies.
Book, right?
Yes. So limited to 500 copies, and there's a signed and lettered edition in a slipcase, limited to 26 copies. That's also available. The price is pretty accessible, though. For the 500 copy limited edition, it's £40, 40 Great Britain pounds. So not too bad. I just wonder how the shipping is going to be like.
And there was going to be he had done some artwork that never got used for of Candyman, and that'll probably be in there too, I would imagine.
Yeah. And also the signed and lettered edition, the 26 copy one, is signed by Danielle Serra and Clive Barker.
Oh,
so that's good.
The 500 copies one is signed by just Danielle Serra. It looks like.
No. The large format hardcover limited to 500 copies is signed by Danielle Serra, and then the 26 lettered copies in a slipcase is signed by Danielle Serra and Clive Barker.
Yeah, that's what I was saying.
Oh, okay. So the 500 one is signed by yeah.
Okay, well, cool. Good.
That is pretty amazing stuff.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'm jealous of anyone who has one of these, and it's tempting.
Sounds like you're fiddling with a puzzle box right now.
Oh yeah, I've got a little plastic dice box case.
Okay.
I'll put it down. I forgot I'm really close to the microphone.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's been fiddling. It's fine.
And
just making sure you're not opening any doors, you know?
Yeah, right. And speaking of buying stuff, Clive Barker's Threadless, I originally wasn't going to put this on the news because they had a sale that ended yesterday on the 25th of September. Yesterday, as we're recording this, because we record on Saturday and put it out on Sunday. But I bought some stuff. I bought a Boo t-shirt, and I bought a couple of face masks, and I saw that there was a Squiller mask there where you could look like you have Squiller attached to your face. Mostly I use these at work, representing the government, so I did not buy Squiller, but I got some classier ones. I got Tidal, so it's just like kind of blue swirly face mask.
And what does the man have against Squiller?
I don't know. I think that it's just it might be a little bit too silly for the
too whimsical.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, but yeah, I like your segue. Speaking of buying things, buy a Squiller mask. Yeah. I gotta say, it's really cute though. In Aberrat, Squiller was used as goggles. Was that what?
Yeah, you put him over your face, and you can see. You can as like binoculars. I think you can see through his eyes.
That's so funny. I'm glad I remembered what it was like. Yeah, Squiller. He's on the second book, right?
Yes, I think, or the first. Now I forget.
So it's an $18 mask, and it's beautifully printed with Squiller Aberrat artwork.
Yeah.
And you can represent your fandom and represent Clive Barker's Aberrat while staying safe.
Yep. Yeah, and.
Oh, and I just want to add, a portion of the proceeds that Threadless earns for each face mask sold is actually being donated to MedShare, up to a $500,000 maximum donation. So that's you're also helping, these corona relief, funds and stuff. So.
Oh, good. Yeah, the country needs that.
Yeah.
Well, going back to Hellraiser, we've got a couple of it's old news, but it's not not necessarily been out there in the public. The Best Movies Never Made podcast has an episode where they interviewed a couple of guys, and I'm trying to look up their names because I forget.
Oh yeah, Marcus Dunstan and Patrick Melton.
Yeah, and they actually started out in that Project Greenlight, I think, where they ended up directing a movie called Feast. Yeah. And so this episode, they talk all about that. I listened to it, and they talk about some other movies. But if you go 27 minutes in, you can hear them talking about the day that they met at Clive Barker's house with Bob Weinstein to talk about making this Hellraiser treatment. And there were two versions of it. They made one. There was one that was more adult, and then Bob Weinstein kind of he got all excited about it, but then when he came back and talked to them later, they kind of acted like he forgot that they talked about it. It's like, no, we're not doing that. We want one with teenagers. And so they were starting to lose enthusiasm for it, and
Yeah. Well, it's more that the funding kept changing. So their original idea was so they started talking to Bob Weinstein and Clive Barker, like you said. They wanted to shoot a movie in film because they had done digital and stuff, but they wanted to shoot it in film.
Yeah.
At this point, there were like 7 treatments or something for a Hellraiser remake, and I think Bob Weinstein said he wanted to make a Hellraiser version of Hellboy at one point.
Yes, because he wanted to get back at Guillermo del Toro, which is like so petty. It's like, we'll show him.
So the first version that Dunstan and Melton were working on was a bigger movie that had like they threw a number. I'm not sure if this was what they were thinking at the time, but they were thinking about $75 million to make this movie.
It had a volcano,
which seems amazing,
and it had Pinhead trying to usurp the devil.
Yes, so it was more adult, more harrowing than the treatment that most people have access to. They were going to create a bigger universe, and it wasn't just going to be you spill the blood and you bring back the skin guy. It was going to expand the universe like they said, like an R-rated Marvel movie.
Yeah.
About Pinhead usurping the devil, and so Pinhead would want to stay in our world. So for that, I'm guessing after you open the box, when you think about the ground rules of the Hellraiser mythology, you open the box, the Cenobites come in, they take you back to hell, so everything closes, end the story. But Pinhead was trying to stay in our world, right? You had a little bit of that in Hellraiser 3, where Pinhead basically wanted to open the door forever so he could just come into our world whenever he wanted. Yeah. In this movie, he would bathe in blood to stay in our world. So the longer he bathed in blood, it would change him. It would start changing Pinhead, giving him more power, changing him physically. And there was going to be a moment where Pinhead would start getting hair growing back and blood, and there would be a moment where he was going to cut himself and blood would come out of his arm, and he would look at it and be like, cool. And because he would start feeling again. He would start, I guess, to become stay in our world, you would have to become a little human again. You'd have to regain your humanity to some point. Good crazy stuff that they would talk about, like they would do these meetings with Darren Lynn Bousman, who was involved in these meetings. He was the guy who was directing Saw movies.
And this was the 2007 remake time period, I think, that we're talking about.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. And so they were doing meetings with Bob Weinstein, Darren Melton, and Dustin, and Clive Barker in the studio house, in the house where there were all the paintings. So in the studio downstairs, they would put a big table, and they were doing like talking about things, pitching things, and that's where the magic was happening. Yeah.
Yep. If it weren't for Bob Weinstein, we might have actually, getting in the way and making stupid decisions. And
yeah. Well, then they finally, came back and was like, Bob Weinstein was like bringing stuff to the table, like, hey, we that funding is different now. We got a different funding. We're gonna shoot it. We're gonna start in Pompeii. We got to go to Pompeii, Italy, and start there. And they were like, what? Yeah. But so they started paring down the script for the second version, and then it became Teens in Peril, according to them. Which is the one that I think we discussed at one point, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah, I started to recognize that when they were talking about the Teens in Peril version.
I have it open right in front of me, the treatment. It's from April 26, 2008.
Yeah, and there was a guy, like a university professor, that got all these students to...
Well, here's the beats of the movie in a very short form. So it would open up in China, 1054 AD, in Chengbaishan. A terrorized man frantically tries to destroy the box. Before he can do it, the Baitoshan volcano erupts, burying him in his small town in burning ash and pumice. Hints of Pinhead seen in shadow. And then goes to present day, right? So the Professor Spence, I don't know if this was going to be a Elliot Spencer kind of reference, but Professor Spence was going to be doing a dig in the Chinese ruin. He would find the man from the opening of the movie, and then his body was collapsed into ash, and the box would be in there because he'd be under him. Mm-hmm. And so the box had been clutched in his hands for over 1,000 years. Yeah. So back to the U.S. college campus.
Didn't he make a deal with Pinhead to give all of his college students to Pinhead?
Right. So they would introduce his students, and then he would show the group the box. He would say, "Oh, this is a wishing box. Press the button, make a wish, and it'll come true." Which, if you're into Rick and Morty, sounds like a Meeseeks box. But anyway, it's not just a press a button thing. It's a puzzle. You gotta open that stuff. You gotta work at it. But so of course, this is the point of the movie where he would just give the box to his students, and for fun, they would start, they would start making wishes and opening the box, and nothing happens, and then, of course, then they start dying in horrible ways. The second act. The kids would discover they're being plagued by their greatest fears, and their fears were being brought to reality by this tall man with a nail-pierced head, and of course, and we find out that Professor Spence, like you said, he had learned that the box was part of an ancient Chinese legend. The box was created by a demon to grant wishes and then drag people down to hell. Yeah. It turns out that the professor had made like a deal with Pinhead. So there would be a moment where they would go into the archaeology building, all the teens, not the teens because they were campus college students, but there would be a time where they go into the archaeology building and it's turned into a Pinhead House of Horrors. I'm not sure how that would work out. Yeah. I'm not sure how that would be too silly, but
Yeah, I liked the first version better. Obviously, it was the first one was better.
Yeah, so the only way they could stop Pinhead would be to destroy the box. They would be dying inside the archaeology building. And then in Act 3, Felicia, Mason, and Professor Spence set out to take the box from Pinhead and destroy it. The professor would volunteer to stay behind and fight off Pinhead so that the other two guys could destroy the box. Yeah. And
didn't somebody Pinhead, in this one get hanged by like an extension cord or something?
I am not reading the whole thing, but I don't see that here. I see that there's one guy who's like completely torn apart. Of course, you got to have someone getting torn apart in a Hellraiser movie. But so let's see. And just to finish Act 3, they would try to destroy the box. They would send Pinhead to hell, and it would be revealed at that time there'd be a twist. Professor Spence made a deal with Pinhead. He offered 20 bodies in exchange for his own. So he tricked them into opening the box. And then the professor would leave, and Felicia would scream as the floor would open, and Pinhead would drag her down to hell to be changed into a Cenobite. Then it would end with the professor teaching a new class. And all of a sudden he brings out the box and says, "Hey, this is an ancient children's toy. Who wants to make a wish?" And that would be the end of the movie. So as far as treatment goes, it's a 4-page treatment, and the 4th page only has 4 lines. So it's basically a 3-page treatment. Not very good. I don't know how this would have turned out. So I can see why this wasn't made. I'm curious about the first version that they were talking about, the $76 million version.
Yeah.
But it was nice to know more about that. They didn't really expound too much on it. I'm not sure why they didn't really talk about the story of it. Maybe they never really fully developed it from treatment form. But it was fun to know some of the stuff that they were coming up with.
Yeah. And then there was another story. Another story about a Hellraiser sequel that never happened, and this would have been the Hellraiser 5 Hellseeker. The Hellseeker, it was called, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Before they just turned it into Inferno. Yeah,
and it had some the original premise of this had some more interesting stuff. It was. Yeah, and this is a Screen Rant article that we've got linked if anybody wants to read it.
Right.
It's there in the show notes.
It was Michael Lent who was gonna write the script, and like you said, he did Hellraiser: The Hellseeker, parts of this ended up being reused for actually Hellseeker.
Yeah, the premise is that there's a guy who there was a fire and all these people died and he was the only survivor and he lost his memory, and the more memory he gets back, the more he's able to solve the riddle. But as soon as he gets his memory back, then he gets to go back to hell, to Pinhead and hell.
The Cenobites can't claim his soul until after he remembers who he is.
Yeah, so it's definitely got, Hellseeker took some stuff from this script, for sure. Mm-hmm. Which, I don't know, it's, I'm in hell and I don't realize it kind of a thing.
Then in Hellseeker, the actual movie that got made, they ended up bringing back Kirsty, Ashley Lawrence. And they used Dean Winter to be the guy who he had a car crash and his wife died, and his wife was Kirsty, and he's having these horrible headaches. So he's got these memory losses, and then it turns out that it's spoiler, it's Kirsty had made a deal with Pinhead.
Yeah.
After her husband teased her into opening the box, and she did, just to shut him up, which is kind of stupid.
Yeah, it was because he was a horrible person, and he was cheating on her, and he just didn't, he just wanted to kind of get rid of her.
Yeah, and she's like, "Why don't you open the box?" And she opens the box. Maybe she's at that point, she's like, "I don't care. I'll." Maybe she planned to make a deal with Pinhead to get rid of him too.
Yeah, but she's probably like, "Hey, I know more about this than you do, so we'll see what happens."
I would have been interested in knowing how this Michael Lent script would have gone by. I didn't think that Kirsty needed to be in Hellseeker. I, didn't like the fact that Kirsty becomes a bad, an evil character that.
Yeah, and it was written with the name Kirsty by the screenwriter, and Doug Bradley is like, "Hey, if you got Kirsty in there, you should make it Ashley Lawrence." Yeah. Which again would have been even weirder to have. Why do you have Kirsty in there and it's not Ashley Lawrence? That would be even more confusing because people would think, well, was she recast or is this a different character?
It was a terrible script before they actually shot the movie because not the Michael Lent one, but the one that was written for actual Hellseeker with Scott Derrickson. Yeah. Who knows? I remember being on the old Hellbound web forums. They used to have a news section called Leviathan's Lamentations. Some people out there might remember that. And I remember when they were talking about what's going to happen with Hellraiser 4, what's going to happen with Hellraiser 5. And at one point, there were these rumors that would come out of these conventions and stuff that was going to be Hellraiser 5 is going to be hundreds of Cenobites. And there's going to be a sister and a small brother, and they're going to end up calling the Cenobites and stuff. And there's also going to be angels and whatever, and it's like, wow, really? And then none of that stuff. I don't even know if that stuff was real.
Maybe that was the big $75 million version.
No, because we're talking 90s. We're talking late 90s here.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Of course.
Yeah. Inferno ended up being made in 2000? I think.
Yeah, 2000. Yep.
Yeah. Yep. So this was late 90s. But, these things were floating around back before, everybody and their aunt was on Twitter telling people what they're going to do. You basically only had Fangoria to find out if there's any movies being done in the mid-90s. And these rumors would come out of, conventions and stuff. And there weren't as many conventions as there are now either. Yeah. So you're stuck with that. But it's great that they're going back and finding this new information. Before they did the Hellseeker, they ended up doing Inferno, and then they made Hellseeker. So they went back to that idea and rewrote it and put Kirsty as a character in there and all that stuff. But that could have been a good movie. It's just that I didn't like the whole Jacob's Ladder thing that kept happening,
Yeah. Well, and that's 5, 6, and 7 were all kind of ripoffs of Jacob's Ladder.
Yeah, if Kirsty had not been Ashley Lawrence, if it had been a different Kirsty or a different character, a scorned woman trying to get back at her cheating husband because he tricks her into opening the box and she makes a deal with the devil to get rid of him. Mm-hmm. And she would go and promise the mistresses and her husband. That's not a bad story. That's a good story. That's kind of at the heart of the whole first movie with Julia and Frank and Larry and stuff and the deal. That would have been cool. It's just that the movie keeps it kept.
And if they'd made her the main character, don't make Dean Winter's character lose his memory and he's a good guy for a long time until the end and like surprise, we tricked you. He's not a good guy. I don't know. I didn't like that.
Well, I like the fact that he was trying to remember what happened because that gives us the big twist at the end. But definitely this idea that the Cenobites couldn't claim him until he remembered who he was seems random, but to me it makes a lot of sense, Just like the Cenobites can show up in the Ludovico Street house, but they can't just grab Frank and take him back until he admits that he's Frank. Yeah. So it seems like all these pieces are falling in place in terms of the Hellraiser mythology and building on that a little bit. And I like the things that he was trying to do. Yeah, I would have been happy with this if they had changed Kirsty and they had taken out all the fake out Jacob Ladder things, because some of them work, but some of them do not work at all. Some of them are just weird until you finish watching the movie.
Jacob's Ladder is a good movie. They don't need to keep on ripping it off over and over again in a Hellraiser setting.
Yeah, I agree. Like the part where Dean Winters coughs up a eel.
Yeah,
it just seems so random. It just seems so random in the middle of the movie, and you're like, "What the hell is going on?" And then you realize, oh, because he's a corpse under the river inside the car, and the eel got into his body, and that's supposed to be a callback to that at the end. But it's but it's just a weird scene that you're putting in here for no freaking reason. It didn't have to be in there, in my mind, it didn't have to be in there. He could just be dead.
Yeah. And we don't know what's going to happen with Hellraiser now. They've put it on hold for the virus. They put it on hold because supposedly they're waiting to see what happens with Clive Barker trying to get the rights to Hellraiser back.
Mm-hmm. That's true. That's true. There's that lawsuit. So until the end of this year, we'll probably have no idea what's going to happen. The David S. Goyer planned.
Yeah, but for once for once the Weinsteins aren't getting in the way of a Hellraiser sequel. It's other stuff now.
Yeah. And we got some really high blockbuster names attached to Hellraiser. So I would love to see Clive get the rights back to Hellraiser. I would love to see Clive have a say and be at the table for these things, like he was with this. Dunstan
and that's the thing I don't get. Is why are they really waiting to see what happens with Clive? I mean, why can't they just sit with Clive and work something out with him? They could just say, hey, here's what our idea is. What do you think? And Clive says, if it's good, he'll go along with it, and he'd say, just put my name on there too.
Well, I don't know the particulars, so I'm going to assume that he wants to do what's best for himself and to have creative control.
Right,
so
but
right
all
now,
they have
I
to do
think
is go ask him. I think that's my point. Is why do they have to, say, well, we've got the rights right now, but we might lose the rights, and they could just go talk to him.
Well, but there's no creative control on paper. I think that's what Clive Barker wants to have.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of promises that you can make at someone at a meeting, but then if ultimately, over the years they've done whatever they wanted with Hellraiser. They pretty much keep whipping that dead horse. And it's really hard. I'm conflicted being a Hellraiser fan because I like the movie, the first movies, but then the rest of the franchise is very, it's hard. It's because you'll talk about Hellraiser with people and they'll be like, oh man, I saw that once. Like on TV, I saw the one, the 5 or 6 or 7 or 8, and you're like, oh God. Yeah. It's those are not the best ones. And it's really hard because that there's a lot of potential in this property. Right. And there's a lot of potential in bringing Clive Barker to the table and bringing someone with the same, creative spirit as Peter Atkins had when he was writing scripts for Hellraiser franchise. We just need to have that spark back. That it's not like lightning hitting twice in the same spot. It's definitely like if you have a flint and it's more like these things work. These things work. If you put them together, the spark will happen. It's not like waiting for lightning to strike the same place twice. Yeah. It's about getting the right elements together so you can make fire.
Well, and the bar is not very high. And for once, they're not motivated by needing to make a movie to keep their franchise rights before they revert back to Disney or whoever.
And just the law of diminishing returns in terms of budget.
Yeah,
I mean, Jesus, like the last movie having like a budget of $250,000, $300,000.
right.
It's
You can't get
ridiculous.
a house for that in a lot of places.
Yeah. It's just crazy. And it's not that budget is super important. Like yesterday, I was watching Pi by Darren Aronofsky, and the budget for that movie, it was not even joking, $60,000.
Wow.
And it's a great movie. And you make a great movie. It's in black and white, and it's I don't know if you ever saw this movie, Pi. No, okay.
I don't think so.
Darren Aronofsky movie, really good. It was the actors were paid $75 a day.
Wow.
And the movie itself was $60,000. And it's a movie that's pretty amazing. So low budget is not the excuse. The excuse is having someone who actually has some imagination, have someone who has some spark, some pizzazz, some magic to it. And Gary Tunnicliffe kind of captured that a little bit with his script for Revelation. That, I think there was problems with the casting for that movie. So the story itself, I think he refined the idea of writing a Hellraiser story for Judgment, Gary Tunnicliffe.
Yeah.
But in Judgment, he really went like balls to the wall. And he created the Stygian Inquisition.
Definitely the best anyone could do with a budget like that.
Yeah, he created the Stygian Inquisition. Yeah. The Auditor. The effects were amazing. The gore, the blood, the shock, the Hellraiser pain and pleasure, stuff.
Yeah, the human stuff was a little. Yeah, the human stuff was a little. The budget really kind of showed in the.
Yeah, and the police procedural sections were a little lackluster, but it was just there as, I think. It was trying to be almost like Seven,
right?
Where it
was super ambitious for the budget that he had.
The stuff that's interesting is the monster, is the Hellraiser part of the story, the Cenobites, the box, the gruesome murders. Yeah. And then you have to frame that in a police procedural thing. And that's probably the weakest part of the story. But it's not by any fault of Gary Tunnicliffe. I mean, he had to work with the budget he had.
Yeah, and really it shows what you can do if you have a director that cares about Hellraiser. I mean, and a lot of them didn't. I mean, even and people will disagree, and that's fine, but in 5 Inferno, that director did not care about Hellraiser. He's like, no, I'm going to make what I want. I don't care about what Hellraiser's about. This is my Hellraiser.
Yeah. In that interview with Melton and Dustin, that we talked about earlier, where they were talking about what they were working on the remake. I think it was Patrick that says something about meeting Gary Tunnicliffe while they were meeting for this film that they were going to make, this Hellraiser remake, and that Gary Tunnicliffe helped him understand the nature of the Hellraiser story a little more when he said that. So listen, this is like the Faustian bargain thing. This is like. It's like a mob thing, right? So someone makes a deal. Movie. Yeah, someone makes a deal. They go back on the deal. So Frank reneges on the deal. And then they have to send their strong guy, which is Pinhead, to go and take care of them.
Like somebody steals all the money and takes off, and the mob has to, and Pinhead is like the leader of a mob hit squad.
Right.
Kind of a thing.
I think that's a great way of looking at it. And again, it was Gary Tunnicliffe. So he had that. That's what he was thinking. I would love to have Gary on the podcast. We should try getting Gary on the podcast. That would be amazing.
Yeah, we should. Definitely. I think that would be a good idea. In site news, it's that time of year again, and we're starting to put together our Fundraiser 8. Clive Barker Podcast presents Fundraiser 8 Sellworld is what we're calling it. So this is the first time we're telling you the title of our new fundraiser. We're starting to put things together. Things are getting exciting. We're going to have some t-shirts, and we will have Imaginer books donated by our friends Phil and Sarah from Clive Barker Revelations and the Clive Barker Archive. And a few other things we're working on. We'll keep that, under wraps until we've got it for sure.
Put a pin in it.
Yeah, there you go. Right.
We're going to put a pin on that.
Yeah. So, but excited about that. I'm looking forward to putting this together. It's always kind of this manic, exciting time having the Kickstarter. I've always got the little, website up next to me wherever I go so that I can watch the numbers jump up and stuff.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And then, and then we're always like, okay, we moved past the goal. Now I got to put up the artwork for the stretch goal, and then, oh, we just jumped 2 stretch goals while I was at work. When I get home, I got to update the artwork and get, say, okay, here's what the next stretch goal is.
Yeah. Well, the first few Kickstarters, we were like scrambling to find things like, what are we going to do? Let's make a commentary track for this movie. Oh, okay, let's make another commentary track for that movie. And then ultimately it's like, we've done commentary tracks for all the movies.
Yeah.
I guess there will be a commentary track for Candyman whenever that thing hits on 2021. So
yeah, we got Candyman, we've got Book of Blood, we've got there's a lot of letters to go still on the A to Z of horror. So we got that. Right. So I think we'll be good. We got if any of Clive's books come out in 2021, which I think they probably will, right? I mean, we got Phil and Sarah are on this poetry book, so I don't see any reason why that wouldn't come out. It probably will. And the anthology, short story anthology book will come out, and he says he's on the final draft of Deep Hill.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, let's put a pin on that.
Yeah. So we've got.
No,
there's still stuff to
I
come.
would hope. Yeah, I would hope that that Phil and Sarah and Clive would be able to ride this wave of resurgence with Hulu and Candyman. And this is the right time, guys. This is the right time to start editing this stuff, putting it out.
Yeah.
And making Clive Barker a household name again.
And if you're out there listening to us, tell us what you would like to see, us do next year, and what you'd like to see in our Kickstarter, because now is our planning time. So, talk to us in email or on this Discord chat or Facebook or whatever. Just tell us, what do you think? What do you think we should do?
Yeah. Add us at Twitter.
Yeah, definitely. Or you can say nice things in the YouTube comments. That would be nice.
Yep. That sounds good.
Yeah. So coming next, we still got a little bit more of 2020 to go. So we'll be doing commentary tracks for Clive Barker's A to Z of horror. G is for Grim Tales. We've kind of picked Edward Scissorhands for G. H is for Harlequinade. We picked Killer Clowns from Outer Space for H. And Cult Divinity Lost. We're still going to be playing that game on video, and we'll have that for you. We were going to record that this week, but due to unforeseen circumstances beyond anyone's control, that's going to be moved to next weekend. So that'll start next weekend. I don't know how many episodes that's going to end up being. It'll depend on where the natural breaking points are and stuff. And then, of course, we're covering Book of Blood somewhere in the middle of that. I guess we'll probably have one episode of Cult, then Book of Blood, and then another, and then finish it up after.
We can do this.
Yeah. So, but I'm excited to talk about Book of Blood, and I don't want to put it off. So as soon as it comes out, we'll do an episode about it.
Sounds great. Yeah. And looks like we've tied this up in a 1-hour episode, which... Yeah. Hope you guys are staying safe. Hope you guys are staying entertained. And if you're listening to this while you're cleaning your house or you're doing chores or whatever, you might be exercising, we'd love to hear from you. Send us some feedback. Like Ryan was saying, what would you like us to tackle in the 2021 season? Do you have any feedback for us? We're on Spotify. We're on the iTunes store. Yeah. You can even record a clip of yourself talking in our website if you open it up on your mobile version. Yeah, that's still there, right?
You can do it on the. You don't have. Doesn't have to be the mobile version too. You can. Do it
cool.
On the computer. Yeah.
On the computer.
Yeah. Yep. You can send us stuff and we'll put it in the episode. Hey, this is Ryan from the future, editing and breaking in because this discussion made me check our voicemail, and we actually had one from a couple of months ago. There's not much to say about it. When you hear it, you'll understand what I mean, but here it is.
Sean Chapman is the hottest man on the planet. Much love from Boston.
Okay, thank you. I believe that was Val from Boston. Now back to the original recording. We're also in some new places. We're in Amazon Music, right? And where there are podcasts, and we're in Audible now. And we're in Ghana for all of the 2 people that listen to us in India. So
Ghana? Isn't that in Africa?
Ghana is the name of the app.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. I was like, wow, we're in Ghana. That's cool.
Yeah.
Alrighty.
And it's big in India.
That's wonderful. Send us feedback. Tell us where you're at. Where do you live?
Yeah.
That's. I would love to hear from stuff in other countries.
On too, I'd like to hear how people listen. It amazes me how many people click on the web player on the website. They see an announcement on Facebook or whatever, and they go, "Oh, that's a topic I want to hear about," and then they'll click on the web player. But we like it if you subscribe, in your podcast app. Put us with your other podcasts that you listen to. One more quick interruption with me, Ryan, from the future, as I'm editing. While I was editing, Marcus brought this to our attention, which was really cool. Clive Barker has a recording as of today by Phil and Sarah Stokes of Clive Barker Revelations, clivebarker.info, and the Clive Barker Archive. While they were doing their interview with him, they made a recording of Clive reading some of his poems from his upcoming poem anthology book. So that was really cool, and it's on. You can find it on YouTube, and we've got a link in the show notes, but here's a little excerpt from that.
My friends, here are a few of my poems, which I've read aloud and have been very kindly recorded by Phil and Sarah. I've always felt that my poems were best read aloud, and I've said that on a number of occasions, but I thought it was time to prove it. So here are just a few of the poems from the 250 which are coming in the collection, and I hope you enjoy them. Thanks. The presence of this breath, the presence of the stratosphere, the presence of the void, the presence of presences, the presence of those not present, the silence of their bodies, all silences, all voids, the presence of this breath.
So we've got a link in the show notes and a link on the website www.clivebarkercast.com where you can go to you can click on that and go to the YouTube and hear the entire thing. He reads a bunch of poems. It's 15 minutes long, and that's definitely worth checking out. Okay, back to the original program.
We love you guys. Thanks for listening to us.
Thank you. And this podcast, having no beginning, will have no end. You can find the show notes for this episode and join the discussion over at www.clivebarkercast.com. We've got an archive of past episodes, news, features, and reviews, along with all the ways you can connect with us. You can subscribe on every other place you can find podcasts. Share your thoughts with us, and share our podcast with your friends. The Clive Barker Podcast, or BarkerCast, is an independent editorial podcast and news blog that's not affiliated with or under contract by Clive Barker or Seraphim Inc. This is a labor of love by the fans for the fans.
Thanks for listening.